There we go. Now just turn the volume up so I can hear myself. There we go. Okay, good morning. Welcome to another stream of Lyrebird Edits. Thank you for waiting for me while I fluffed around and got myself ready. I was walking the dog and lost track of time. Sort of like the my dog ate my homework excuse, except yeah, instead of eating anything, she was just eating up my time. So yeah. Hello. Crovextus. Took me a second to piece together those letters in my head. The K-H-R-O-W. Crovextus. Crovextis. Good morning, how are you? Or if it's evening where you are, then good evening, and if it's afternoon where you are, then good afternoon. Let's see. What are we doing today? Hey, Katerina Hopes. Or Katrina Hopes, sorry. Oh my goodness. I think my eyesight's getting worse. I'm having a lot of trouble reading names. Maybe I'm just stupid. I'm probably just a bit stupid. Morning, Justin Toons. How are you doing? No troubles. We'll catch you later. Thank you for waiting around, and sorry I started late today. You're tired? You're bored? Well, have I got the solution to that boredom? Editing, writing, yeah, that's the kind of high stakes, no hold, no bars hold, no hold bars. What's that expression? I'm not sure. But anyway, the point I'm trying to convey is that this is kind of like your morning coffee. It's like a V mixed in with a rock star. It is editing and watching me talk. So strap yourself in because it's gonna get verbal. Doesn't sound very good, does it? I'm sorry. It's just me being stupid. Just ignore most of what I say when I'm introducing people by name. Just assume I'll get it wrong at least twice, and then the third time I'll luck on the right phonetics. Christiana. That's okay. I kind of get the first one and the last one. Christiana though. That's unusual. That takes like a lot of butchering of Katrina. Specifically the C, and then there's an H thrown in there, and then the R is in the wrong place. Like you sort of have to look at Katerina and just go like, yep, like that, and have that in first like 100 millisecond impression of what your name is to confuse Katrina with Christiana. No, sorry, this is Christina. Not Christiana, but Christiana would be, I think, even a step worse. I don't know what point I was trying to prove there. So please don't make me read out any more names. 7 letters is too many. Alrighty. Let's get into the edit. I usually spend a bit of time fluffing around at the start, but I'm not going to do that today because we're so late. I wonder whose fault that is. This is a Lapse in Fate by CryptoSyke. Now, if you want to have a read of a story for yourself, please do, because it is over on the DestructiveReaders subreddit. Yep. So thank you for CryptoSyke for donating this story into my editing pool. It is, how long is this? Probably do this over 2 streams. We'll see how we go. Yeah, go and say hi, read the story, leave a comment. DestructiveReaders is pretty specific about the kind of comments that they want you to leave, so make sure if you do comment that you read the subreddit rules, because they like you to be very overflowing in your feedback. They want you to really break it down and explain what it is that you think and why. Seems like a pretty good subreddit, actually, for getting that kind of feedback. Good. Just a little introduction for people who may be tuning in for the first time, like Crovextus. What we do here on Lyrebird Edits is we get someone's story from some far-flung corner of the internet, usually Reddit, and I ask them, hey, would you like to have your story edited? And they say, oh yes, that sounds lovely. And I take their story and do a live edit. And then promptly forget to give them the link to their document that I edit on. And after 1 or 2 follow-up emails, I finally deliver it to them. So I will have to make sure to keep that in check. I want to check one thing before I start the edit, and that is... just make sure I've updated the name properly. I've started not re-uploading, double streaming to YouTube, but I forgot to change the stream title on YouTube. And all the streams I've done over the past couple of weeks say my story, but it's not my story. It's it is the story of novelist Krim, Pumpkin Pie Addict. So I'll have to go through and change the titles. And on that note, is the title for this stream correct? Yes, it is. A Lapse in Fate by CryptoSyke. Lovely. Let's start. Good. A Lapse in Fate. I think the older you get, the more lost you feel. As a kid, I always believed there would come a time in my life where things would make sense, and stuff would click into place, resonating meaning with a perfect explanation of the world. Or how strange a boy can dream, how high he can try to reach. So when my girlfriend broke up with me the day my mother died, it wasn't really a shock. It wasn't a shock, really. Life had kicked me like a motherfucker before. Heads up, there may be some swearing in this. So if you're sensitive to bad words, I don't know. Although I'll admit, not to this degree. And I've gotten used to the ass kicking over my 21 years of living. But that didn't mean it didn't carve a hole in my brain, leaving dead connections and a settled numbness behind. That could have also been the fault of the alcohol running in my system, the great depressant of the gods. But staring blankly at the rows of alcohol behind a bar, not saying a word, and more importantly, doing all this alone, necessitated some level of substance abuse. And my substance was whiskey. Baby. My phone was going off non-stop. This was a rare thing, as most days I lived like a hermit with no legs. Trapped inside my dorm, either studying, the least likely, or procrastinating by watching porno and eating pizza, more likely. Just so I don't forget that later, but it seemed all of my 3 friends must have heard the news and were checking up to see if I was okay. I couldn't deal with that. No matter how many times they called, I wasn't going to deal with the mock sounds of their artificial brain as they asked how I was going, if I was alright, or whether they should come over to see me. I barely knew them nowadays anyway. Ever since high school ended, keeping in touch only meant simple messages sent over the weeks, promises of catching up but nothing ever following. It's just how life and friends work sometimes, I guess. Or they had all just hated me from the start and only tolerated my presence because of some unseen factor I'm not totally aware of. As I'm a natural depressive, I'll go with the latter. I ordered another glass of whiskey, feeling both refined and like a 40-year-old alcoholic at the same time, and chugged that down without tasting it. My body was fuzzy, warm, nerves in my hands energetic and spiky, and somehow a smile managed to spread across my lips as I realized just how drunk I was. Let's stop here, because this is a nice little page's worth of introduction, and then we can do a bit of a line edit. We can talk about what's going on and how it's all fitting together. So we'll read through it line by line first. I think the older you get, the more lost you feel. The older you get, the more lost you feel. It's a decent opening sentence, I think. You can rephrase this in other ways, like, I think that the older you get, or I think that with an increase in age, I think that with age, you understand that there's something in your life, like a baseline, a note that you can't erase, of an increasing sense of loss that you feel. So there's a lot of ways to say this sentence. It's, as it is now, it's sort of, it's double-edged, it's short, it gets the job done, that's for sure. I don't think it needs to be overly eloquent, it just needs to give you an idea of the tone of what's going to come afterwards. Not tasting the whiskey. HDLACC, yeah, I agree. I don't get people who say I don't taste alcohol, or people who drink alcoholic drinks like what are they called? We call them alco pops. I'm not sure what the American equivalent is. And they say, oh, it just tastes like soft drink. How it's got vodka in it. It's how can you not taste alcohol? So I don't know. I think people have different um I think people must have different receptors to tasting alcohol. That's the only way I can explain why some people say barefaced that they don't taste alcohol sometimes. And so maybe it's a combination of how drunk this person is, or how ineffectual it is to their sense of to their senses. That works, but yeah, I don't get people who say they don't taste alcohol. Hmm. Anyway, as a kid, I always so you missed me with a comment. As a kid, I always believed there would come a time in my life where things would make sense and stuff would click into place, resonating. Get rid of that comma. Um, Resonating meaning with a perfect explanation of the world. This is a bit of a funny phrase. I get the impression of what you are going for here, that a sense of completeness and cohesion would bring with it a follow-on emotional high slash what's it called? It's like contentment. So that's the impression, resonating meaning with a perfect explanation of the world. But the way that these words are all fitting together undercuts this sense of sense. It sort of tumbles into itself. Resonating meaning with a perfect explanation of the world. It doesn't really make any literal sense. I always believed that there would come a time in my life where things would make sense and stuff would click into place. That one day I would feel as though this world began to make. But that's redundant then. As a kid, I always believed things made sense and stuff would click into place. That a perfect explanation would somehow something like that. The clunkiness of these words don't fit in with what sense is, so maybe try something like that. A perfect explanation would make my heart tune into a different frequency. A right note. Maybe something like this. Instead, comment. Congrats on the completion of your chores, or the almost completion of your chores, Justin Toons. As long as you have me on in the background and you can hear my voice blaring and all my advice sort of filtering through the ether. I don't know what I'd be like as background music. I think Emma the Ruthless used to stream me as background music. Music? No, am I? No, I'm not music. But yeah. Hide the URL. Usually you have to put a comma after O. Oh, how strange a boy can dream, how high he can try to reach. That's okay. So when my girlfriend broke up with me on the day my mother died, it wasn't really a shock. It wasn't a shock, really. So when my girlfriend broke up with me on the day my mother died, comma, it wasn't a shock, really. Life had kicked me like a motherfucker before, although I'll admit not to this degree. Good use of throwaway hyphens here, that's really nice. And I've gotten used to the ass kicking over my 21 years of living. Over the course of my 21 years, over my 21 years of, through my 21 years of living, during, while, over is a funny one there. And I've gotten used to the ass kicking over my 21 years of living. You can, it's not strictly wrong, I think you can keep it. Someone in another edit suggested that this should be throughout my 21 years of living, which makes more, it works in a more literal way. I'm not gonna lose any sleep if I ignore that. Whoa, okay, wow. Nice. All you have to do is just whisper Emma's name in a mirror 5 times and she'll appear behind you. All spooky like. That's a reference to a movie called Candyman if you're not yeah, if you've never heard of Candyman before. I've never seen it, but it's a terrifying concept. Anyway, like a ghost that you can whisper into. I think it's like the Bloody Mary thing. Like you whisper a name and she appears and it's all spooky. Hello, Emma the Ruthless. Emma the Spooky. Where was I? Also, I gotta follow my own advice. One thing I will lose sleep over is if people use numbers instead of letters for numbers. I don't know where I picked this up from, but it's usually convention to write out numbers as letters, which can get a bit confusing if you're streaming out a lot of numbers, but I think when I was editing Nick of Knight's story, I came across this. It's more important in dialogue to spell it out. Within the context of the body, if you need to make a really long number, I think you can get away with it. But it's always nice to see words describing numbers instead of numbers. Yeah. But that didn't mean it didn't carve a hole in my brain, leaving dead connections and a settled numbness behind. That could have also been on account of the alcohol running in my system, the great depressant of the gods. I think this is grammatically right. If it was a hyphen, it would refer back to the system. The comma refers back to the object of this, the alcohol. Yep. But staring blankly at the rows of alcohol behind the bar, careful with the repetition of alcohol here. So you can just say staring blankly at the bottles. But staring blankly at the rows of colourful bottles behind the bar, not saying a word implies that the alcohol or the bottles don't say a word, so so you have to put a comma there to imply that the subject is doing it. And comma, more importantly, doing all this alone. I'm gonna put all of. You don't have to take that suggestion, but this is something that's no, don't worry about it. It's up to you if you want to do all of or all. I know that Americans have a bit of a different cadence with their ofs. So I'm gonna let that slide. Doing all this alone necessitated some level of substance abuse, and my substance was whiskey, baby. So I love conjunctions at the start of sentences. My year 3 English teacher doesn't. She said to us, don't start your sentences with and, don't start your sentences with but. And it's because as a child you construct stories in a way that sounds a bit like this. I woke up in the morning, full stop. And then I went to the kitchen and made myself some toast. And then I had a banana. Then I wanted some more toast, but then there was no more toast in the freezer. And then, but. Kids talk like this because they're constructing sentences without knowing how to stop and start them. And so there's the rule as a child that you don't start your sentences with conjunctions. But as adults, you can do it differently because it's a nice way to keep the fluid nature of a sentence going. Except in instances like this where almost every part of this paragraph starts with a conjunction. With the exception of that one there, I'll highlight it here. So I think if majority of your sentences start with ands, buts, so's, I'm gonna highlight that in blue, and this one here. I think I've picked up all of the good. If majority of your sentences start with conjunctions, this is 2/3. And the substance was whiskey, baby, is a great great close to the paragraph. Have a look at the yellow. The sentences tend to start conjunctions. I'm a really big fan of this. I'm a fan of this technique because, if I could spell technique properly, it keeps the flow going. However, you have to use it sparingly. Use it too much and your sentence will... Your paragraph feels too liquid. So maybe keep the first and last one. There's also something to be said about starting paragraphs with conjunctions, which is a very brave move. You have to really be sure that the flow of this and this is smooth. Oh, how strange a boy can dream. How high he can try to reach. So when my girlfriend works nicely. Works really nicely. But you gotta be worried about if it does work nicely or not. Just keep that in mind for your own writing. I wondered that actually, yeah. A ruthless editor. I'm a kinda lol. So you could be Emma the Kinder. Sounds like an interesting Twitch name. Potentially you should create a new account, Emma the Kinder. And potentially you should subscribe to me with that new account. And potentially I could double my subscriber count if all of you made alternate accounts. Each ending with kinder, of course, and then you could subscribe to me on both channels. Just a suggestion. I'm not suggesting... Well, I am suggesting you do that, but I also suggest that you consider my suggestion as a suggestion. Sounds like it's against their terms of service, what I just said. It's like everyone doubling up on their subscriptions. And Twitch would come in and be like, no, you can't do that. That's bad. Bad Lyrebird. A noble cause. Potential. Oh, thank you, Emma, but I'm sure you in your editing career are developing new skills and you're finding your own way to edit, so don't put yourself down. Don't put yourself down. I think the only real way you can be a better editor and a better writer is just to do more of it, so don't give up. And it's actually quite important that you develop those skills as an editor, because I think it helps you be a better writer too. So if you know, for your own sake, you can do it. I've lost the thread. Let me see. Katerina Hopes was talking about... Ah, Katrina Hopes! Oh my god, I'm sorry. Katrina Hopes was saying that the hard truths make people cry. Yes. I think there's a bit of a balance you have to strike between a truth and saying it in such a way that people will actually action on that truth. It's okay to say, hey, this isn't good, do it better. But unless you do it in such a way that makes the author want to change their writing, then it's a bit of an empty sort of throwaway advice, isn't it? You gotta cushion the advice so that it's taken properly. Yeah, at least that's my motto. Your personality. Emma, they're somewhat less ruthless than before. That's a great username. Is there a character limit on usernames? You should find that out, Emma. Did you stop critiquing me because you made me cry too much? Oh, those sleepless nights. Tears running down my face. Emma the Brutal. She her username said she was ruthless, but I didn't imagine she'd be that ruthless. Anyway, what was I saying about here? Yes, watch out for your conjunctions. I love them, but you gotta balance it. So these ones here, yeah. Get rid of the buts. Not specifically because they're buts, but just because they're a little too much. What else? The reason I got rid of the fault of and on account of just... There are subtle differences between these two. This is a suggestion, not a hard edit, CryptoSyke. If you feel like the fault of the alcohol makes more sense in the context, implying that it's the alcohol's fault I'm like this, as opposed to it's my fault I'm using the alcohol, which is on account of. It's a really subtle difference there. I got rid of alcohol here because it was in the sentence before it, and it's okay, but if it lines up visually like that, I mean, it was before, like this, alcohol. Try not to do that because it makes your reader a bit uncomfortable. It makes me uncomfortable, so I always like to get rid of it. This was a rare thing, as most days I lived like a hermit with no legs, trapped inside my dorm, either studying, the least likely, or procrastinating by watching porno and eating pizza. I don't know if this is like a US specific thing, but we say watching porn. Watching porn, no. Hang on. How do I define this word? Wiktionary. I don't want to type porno into Google. Typing to Wiktionary though. That's why, because it's an adjective. Or at least in my understanding. Ah, that's why. Okay, yeah. In my country, porno is short for pornographic, which is the adjective. In your country, porno is short for the noun pornography. The things you learn on Lyrebird Edits, really useful stuff. So this is a story that's probably set in America. Let's change the spelling from colourful to colourful. You're gonna keep porno there? Fine. Okay, good. I'm on your wavelength. If you'd like to see that for yourself, I'm gonna link you to some porn. Yes, nice. Really interesting, actually. Like that's a very unusual split word with two very different meanings depending on the context that you're in. Are we really talking about this? Yes, we are, Justin Tunes. Like, there's no topic that's off limits on Lyrebird Edits. No, actually, look, it is important because within context of the story, you have to use the correct words and have the correct impressions. And even if the topic is a bit on the nose, it's important to get that impression right as well. Like, I do this for whatever word we were talking about, but yes. This is a good Wiktionary article. I suggest looking at it. Not in disturbing detail, exactly. I don't think Twitch would be too happy if I was to describe anything. Anyway, why is my computer fan going crazy? Let me check something. Yep, that's why I was folding proteins. Okay, no more. The least likely... I'm gonna suggest keeping the most likely. Least likely, the most likely. The more likely. Least and more is a decent pair, and I think you can keep the there, and it makes it look a bit neater. I'm not a perv, I swear. I just like words. But it seemed all my 3 friends must have heard the news and were checking up to see if I was okay. I couldn't deal with that, no matter how many times they called. I wasn't going to deal with the mock sounds of their artificial brain. This is a what's the word I'm looking for? Is it tautology? Where, yeah, it's tautology. Pick one and stick with it. I recommend getting rid of mock sounds, because that sounds like unless you put mocking sounds of their artificial brain, which isn't a tautology, that's two subtle, quite subtly different words. With the sound of their artificial brain sounds a bit cleaner. As they asked how I was going, if I was alright, yes. Did you know that this isn't strictly the correct word? Alright. Where am I? Where am I? Strictly speaking, you're supposed to differentiate into 2 words, but I mean, it's becoming so common for people to write this that it's forming into a neologism, I think is what it's called when you make a new word. Yeah, so we can keep it. Or whether they should come over and see me. This has a nice rhythm to it, because look, it's a huge sentence, but read it out loud again. No matter how many times they called, I wasn't going to deal with the sound of their artificial brain, as they asked how I was going, if I was alright, or whether they should come over to see me. You can have sentences this long if it sounds fluid in your head. And you'll notice tonight that I'm actually reading out all of this, as though it's like a script. It's very fluid, and I hope you picked up on that. This is a really nice way to write stories. It's a modern, contemporary style of writing, and it feels as though you're actually listening to someone speaking to you. Instead of having the narrator describe their events as though they're in a first-person adventure story, and it's, I do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do that. It's much more sort of reflective, it's contemplative, and quite literally nothing has happened yet in terms of motion. He's sitting there at a bar thinking. That's all that's happened so far. But whatever this is from the start to here is actually very important detail, because even though nothing has physically happened, we get brought up to speed with things that are going on inside this guy's head. If you were to write the story differently, in a motion perspective, you can apply all this detail through context and through character quirks and things like that. It's just a choice of how you want to tell the story, and this is a very valid and very smooth and nice way of getting the point of the story across. So if you're the kind of writer who's never encountered this sort of writing before, consider trying it. Don't write about what happens. Write about why stuff is happening. Give it a go and see if you can sort of mimic this style, because I like this style. It doesn't suit every type of story, and I think I had quite a bit of fantasy here, on Lie About edits, some magic realism, sci-fi, all that sort of stuff. And this type of writing is underutilized in those genres, with the exception of maybe like neo-noir style writing. So yeah, have a think about it. Liar only tells for truth. This liar tells for truth, and the other liar says he tells for truth. What was that classic, like, you have two people, one only tells for truth, one tells lies, and you have to ask them their perspective on the other person. Alice in Wonderland, the first one that did it, was the 80s one, not the Dark Crystal, Labyrinth. You just made someone cry on stream. That's awful, Octavia Memories. You're a terrible person. Unless you're a good person for making them cry tears of joy. Oh no, battery problems. Oh no. I feel you. I feel you, Crow. Octavia Memories, what's Moabs? It seems like I should know what that is. Yeah, exactly. That's the one. That's the one. Tears of Confusion. You're a confusing person. Oh wait, sorry, it's a TTLACC. I thought that was Octavia Memories talking about powers over people. Tears of Confusion? I had Tears of Confusion once. It was so strange. It was in the Madoka movie. Hang on. The third one. Yeah, the Rebellion Madoka movie. It was so bizarre. I started feeling very upset with it, but also quite happy. I don't know. I don't know why I'm telling you this. Anyway, tears of confusion. Weird feeling. Weird feeling. Good movie. Very weird. I barely knew them nowadays anyway. Ever since high school ended, keeping in touch only meant simple messages sent over the weeks, promises of catching up, but nothing ever following. Nothing ever coming of it, nothing ever following. That's fine. That's just how life and friends work sometimes, I guess. I'm gonna put work, present tense. Or they all just hated me from the start and only tolerated my presence because of some unseen factor I'm not totally aware of. This is classic sort of introvert depression stuff. As I'm a natural depressive, I'll go with the latter here. I ordered another glass of whiskey feeling both refined and like a 40-year-old alcoholic at the same time, and chugged that down without tasting it. My body was fuzzy, warm, nerves in my hands energetic and spiky, and somehow a smile managed to spread across my lips as I realized just how drunk I was. Hang on a second, that's a realized with an S. My friend, you are not American. You are from the UK or from my lovely country. In which case, get rid of that O on the porno. Get rid of that American colorful. Yes, mwah, colorful with a U. Lovely. This is how we do things in our corner of the world. Don't use porno, okay? There's a specific reason why that O is there, and why it shouldn't be there. In this case, it shouldn't be there. Unless you're an American writing from the perspective of like a Commonwealth person, in which case, cool. Just spell things right though. There was a lot of people in the bar, as was typical on a Friday night. You can get rid of. I'm gonna show you something here. Slow it down a little bit. There were a lot of people in the bar. Full stop. A typical Friday night, I suppose. Full stop. Looking around, come up a strange idea to talk to someone came about. I'm gonna read and then go back into the line edit again. So we'll do this page. I think everything was a lot of nonsense. Just watching anime skip the movies. Yeah, I think I agree. Um, the anime is perfect as is. It's a fantastic anime, really good. The movies didn't need to exist. If you want a condensed version of the series, watch the first two movies. But um, movie number three was just bizarre. Um, fun. It was fun. I quite like the ending, but yeah, it's just yeah. Hey, nice. With the U, the correct way. Hmm. Good. Yeah, it's British English. Are you American though? Um, because for you it's without the U. You don't have U's. You don't like U's very much. We like our U's. I don't know why. Well, that's just the way it was, I guess. Anyway, okay, yeah. Yeah, medieval fantasy tends to work a bit better with a UK setting. um, I guess like the spelling might enhance that. I don't know. Maybe. The way they went was very strange. But hmm, mystery versus clarity. That's an interesting one. Um, the correct way. Yes, exactly with the spelling. Okay, cool. I do say so. I declare it so, and therefore I must be right because I declare it. Um, yeah, I don't know what to think about the mystery versus clarity thing. I prefer clarity, but it's because I don't like the way people handle mystery, but that's just a personal reader preference. However, if you opt for clarity, it needs to be clear. The clarity needs to be clarity. It doesn't need to be convoluted. And I think Miss Bloker's third movie was clear, but in a very unclear way. I don't know. Strange movie. Um, yeah, good movie. Strange movie. It wasn't something that normally popped up in my head, but hey, after a couple of glasses of pure whiskey, the possibility of me holding a conversation for no longer than 30 awkward seconds was much greater than if I'd been sober. It was possible, not likely, but possible. I like how that ends there. At the bar, in the stool to my left, was a girl with black hair talking. Oh, talking to someone who might possibly be a guy, but from this angle, it was anyone's guess. Um, that friend of hers she was talking to had short hair. That's all I could really see. And heaps of girls had short hair nowadays, so I was probably in the clear. Only talking to people wasn't exactly up my alley, not to the extent that my masturbatory skill was at anyway. The brief friends I made in high school and the outliers of people I sometimes chatted to in uni were made up of those who had come to me instead of the other way around. It's not to say they sought me out one day because of some remarkable thing I had done, but rather our relationship was built of them and talking to me first, as it was obvious that any social interaction between us would happen any other way. That's the way things normally panned out for me socially anyway. I kind of left it to fate to guide people into my life, and I let it kick them out too. Although they weren't kicked out most of the time, but rather just faded away. I guess, in a way, I just don't like much control over my life, so trying to start up a chat with this chick was evidently pretty fucking difficult. Hey, what's up? The words were out of my mouth before I knew what I was doing. She wasn't even looking at me. I was talking to the back of her head. I'm a real fucking idiot, that's for sure. But thankfully she gave me the courtesy to turn and see who had spoken, seeming a bit awkward when she looked at me, as if already knowing I was going to cock this up and embarrass the both of us. Maybe I had already. Hi, I said again, feeling like I had to retrieve my point of entry. I had a feeling she'd be a boy. Because the way that he'd set, this had been set up, I thought that I was probably in the clear. I sort of half imagined him to say hey and this guy turn around. I mean, I don't know, maybe. We will see if there are any twists and turns in store. Um, okay, I started I realized something then. Let me go back and fix it. This one here. This is a story told in the past tense. So this sentence here is very wordy. Look, it's more than 3. Sorry, it's about 2.5 lines. It works only if your character isn't in the present. So you can't have a drunk character say this, but you can have a character reminiscent on the time that they were drunk saying this. So this type of sentence, I think, works. This is a good way to close off the paragraph too. I quite like that. Oh, sorry, people are talking. I gotta get myself up to speed. I see Octavia memories, yeah. Okay, Crow Vexters, thank you for stopping by. Glad you checked out the stream. Hope you like what you see. I stream Sunday this time and Thursday evenings, 12 hours ahead. So that's Thursday evening my time. But yeah, thank you for stopping by. We will catch you next time, hopefully. Nice, writing while watching. I hope my voice doesn't creep into your writing. Ooh, Ripstrom. Oh no. No, I'm still live. What are you talking about, Justin Toons? What are you talking about? Hit F5. Smash that F5 button. I think you have Octavia memories. Mother of all bombs? I'm not sure what Mobes is, sorry. Hey, nice, thank you for the follow. Yes. Yes. Another minion in my army. Yeah, thank you. Oh, right. Memories of a Beautiful Soul. Yes. Yes. Sorry, I didn't pick up on the no ABS. At the bar on the stool to my left was a girl with black hair talking to someone. This is a funny sentence because without the comma, it means that the black hair is talking to someone. I like that image, but you need to put a comma there. At the bar in the stool to my left, you could even say sitting to my left because he's already at the bar. But this kind of regrounds the scene, so I'll allow it. No, that implication isn't right. Sorry, I'm gonna retract what I said before. Strictly speaking, a girl with black hair talking to someone is fine. Who might possibly be a guy, but from this angle it was anyone's guess. The friend of hers. I never get this right. It is hers, yeah. My mistake. So used to the apostrophe possession. A friend of hers she was talking to had short hair. That's all I could really see. This has to be throwaway, so hyphens. This needs to be within the same paragraph with an ellipsis. Only talking to people wasn't exactly up my alley. Only talking to people wasn't exactly up my alley is an odd clause. Yes, thank you. Good spotting to DLACC. It has to be hyphenated. Yep, I'm gonna use that back. That makes it a lot cleaner too. That gets rid of the confusion. Nice one, DDLACC. I wish I had like a little reward system for chat. I'm sure there's a plugin I can get where it's like I can give you guys little points. My girlfriend's playing Ni no Kuni, the first one, on the PlayStation 3 right now, and you have these little familiars that you can feed, like chocolates and ice creams as treats. So I kind of want that system for you guys. You guys can be my familiars, and I can drop some chockies for you when you're good boys and girls. nice and condescending, isn't it? Yes. Well, want to see the new opening scene? Sure, paste it in Discord if you like. Time for me to plug my Discord. Oh, I should have done that when Crow was here. Anyway, Crow, if you're still here, or if there's anyone who hasn't joined my Discord yet, please feel free to do so. It is, the link to it's on my Lyrebirds homepage here on Twitch. Yeah. I'm gonna keep pushing through with this one, Octavia Memories. I will... If you'd like me to put it over stream, I can do that another time, but I don't want to move in and out of stories. I've still got Solar Star-Lords to do as well. Yeah, that reminds me. Oh, okay, I was wondering where you knew Crow from. Yeah, sure. Send him a link to the Discord. More than welcome to. Ooh, yeah, good suggestion. Yeah, and it really is unusable too. Just here, there's black stuff. There's nothing here. Wait a second. This is what is this? This is it's a cat made of rice with a piece of salmon on its back. Secretly a huge weeb, and my room is just full of Japanese stuff. Full. And that's why you only see this part. Actually, it's not too bad. Feisty. TTLAC, so you get your mind out of the gutter. I should do something with that space, shouldn't I? Bland white walls, yeah. If I had less self-respect, I'd put up some tasteful anime posters, but they're just sitting there in the corner of my room. It seems like a waste. Anyway, I'm self-conscious enough, I think. No, I don't pass any judgments. Talk to people. So only talking to people wasn't exactly up my alley. I've got a comment about this paragraph here. Quite a bit of this info. While it's a good opportunity to rehash and emphasize it's also breaking the flow of a narrative a little. I suggest cutting back. And getting to the point. So for instance, not to the extent, okay, so he's good at, well, he's, you know, this sentence here is basically, I'm a loner, that's fine, people come to me, I don't go for them. It's a nice image, like, on the whole, the image here is that he is, a passenger of life, in that he waits for things to happen to him for people to come and go. So keep this and dial back on the uni days. Just make it a sentence. What that will do is make sure that the reader doesn't get bogged down in, okay, dude, okay, we get it. This part here is, okay, the reason why he's saying this is because he feels as though he doesn't have a direct sense of control over people who come into and out of his life, so this is a bit of a unique thing. That's why this is a difficult paragraph to work with, because it's good, but the way it's constructed makes the second half feel quite weak, whereas this should be the strongest part of it. Arguably you need what comes before, but it doesn't need to be that long. This line in particular about masturbation feels like it's cheap. The masturbation line feels cheap. I'm sorry if that's a bit blunt. The same impression of lonerism can be stronger if you cut this out and focus on the friendships. Just looked at this corrupt hentai. Pics of waifus. I didn't know that. Corrupt hentai on the other hand. Proficiency with the skin. Ah, I've never heard that before. That's a wonderfully colourful euphemism. It would not at all fit here. Because it's too funny. Corrupt hentai. Who would do that? Who would? Tasteful. How does Twitch deal with nudity in video games? Like, if you're playing a video game and there's nudity in it, what's the go? Like, do you have to flag your channel before you stream it, saying that you're going to be dealing with mature content? I don't know. Virtuoso. Yeah, ditto. I'm TTLICC, help us out. You're like my Twitch encyclopedia. Yeah, I knew that because of the rule about nips. So yeah, so what's the deal with nudity in video games then? I'm trying to think of a video game with nudity in it. The Witcher? Is there nudity in... I haven't played it, but anyway, the reason this is here as well is that it bleeds into this, which is really nice. We have to keep that sense of I like the contrast here. The words were out of my mouth before I knew what I was doing. She wasn't even looking at me. I was talking to the back of her head. I'm a real fucking idiot, that's for sure. present tense, but because it's happened in the past, it spirals back into the present. That works. Get rid of the but, unless you want to keep it as another paragraph. Thankfully, she gave me the courtesy to turn around and see who had spoken, seeming a bit awkward when she looked at me, as if already knowing I was going to cock this up and embarrass the both of us. This is a bit of an ugly phrase here. But thankfully, she gave me the courtesy to turn around and see who had spoken, full stop. At first, she seemed a little awkward. That's a bit better, but again, this kind of detail tells a bit too much. So I'm gonna rework it. So at first she... something like that. At first she gave me the classic "who the hell are you" look, as if already knowing I was going to cock with something versus something area ahead. Fine. Get rid of the but. Get rid of the but. Thankfully she gave me why? Because you want to keep the conjunctions tight at the start of the sentences, at least. Optional nudity? Optional nudity. Do you mean like optional in the sense that you can pursue those side quests if you want to or not, versus like an option at the start of the game where it's like you tick a box and it's like, yes please, I'll have some nudity? That's weird. The former makes sense though, because there are lots of things you can do in games that you don't strictly have to do. Right, so there are unlockables or sort of side portions. I see. Hi, I said again, feeling like I had to reiterate my point of entry. Hi, nice to meet you, she said, smiled slightly, then turned back to her friend. I couldn't say my heart shattered anymore, as it was already in a million crushed pieces with no hope of return. But I certainly felt like it was the last passenger on the Titanic watching it sink, slowly drifting into the cold sea, thinking, I shouldn't have been so fucking cocky about this bitch, that's for sure. Getting some real nice guy vibes here. Let's see, nice guy. Be careful about how you portray your character too. I'm getting nice guy vibes about this character, but look, it kind of makes sense given his emotional state and his background. The nice guy meme, for those of you who aren't aware, is typically pretty damaged, emotionally damaged men who project a lot of their insecurities onto women. So they'll often have a lot of self-worth issues, a la this, a la drinking, a la Friends, and they'll see a nice girl, think she's beautiful, hey, can we talk? Girl says no, and then they just, like, on a dime, like, well, you're an ugly bitch anyway. It's like a complete 180, and it's often born of this deep sense of emotional insecurity. That's the impression I'm getting from a lot of the things here, so I think it's apt for the story. If we didn't have this kind of thing set up before, I would question this, and just encourage the author to make sure that the impression of this character was a bit tighter, and that the reader is made to feel as though these kinds of actions are damaging, because they are. But then again, it's only up in their head, so at least he's not saying it out loud. Anyway, enough about nice guys. Go to the nice guys subreddit on none other than good old Reddit. But yeah, the nice guy things. It's pretty confronting when you see a lot of it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, isn't it interesting? Someone on also just I will say this. I'm sure none of you would do that, but yeah, don't post anything from my streams onto subreddits. I think, like, I'm not saying you would have, um, but yeah, I don't think that's good manners. Um, and also because I think this isn't an accidental nice guy. I think this is a deliberate nice guy. In which case, yeah, like all the impressions line up, so it's a good characterization. I think in real life though, um, a lot of that kind of behavior doesn't. Sometimes when you're so close to a problem, it's hard to take a step back and look at your behavior as a whole. And I think a lot of nice guys can't see that. They don't see the consequences of what they're thinking or why they choose to lash out at people. It's yeah, it's quite sad. Yeah. Um, I'm gonna read a bit more. There's a lot to say about this too, just from a structural point of view. That's a sentence starting here, going down to there. It's a big one, and there are like two or three like full phrases there that we need to deal with. I left the bar after that. Well, after ordering another shot of whiskey, having moved down the length of the bar so I was away from the crime scene of my utter devastation. The night was young, the sky was silky black, and the sounds of drugged and drunk idiots filled the streets with a sweetness to it that was almost innocent. There were so many places to go, so many people to see. Except all the places to go were shit, and the people I wanted to see would barely give me an ounce of their time. While the people I didn't want to see hounded me like a starved bitch hungry for meat. Alas, that was the nature of life. The nature of life. So I walked with no real goal in mind. I was healthily distracted from any possible thoughts lurking around in my head by the growing numbness pervading my body and the jolt of energy lighting a wire up my legs. With each step I made, my vision blurring but finding pockets of visual stimulus in the form of girls walking down the streets or strange faces poking out of the crowd that were interesting to look at. It was a strange feeling, wanting to cry and laugh and celebrate life at the same time, wanting to enjoy all the melancholy and merriment required, nothing more and nothing less. But instead of doing these things, I continued to walk blankly, hoping I'd just find my way somehow. This reminds me very much of a, I want to find this because, it's a good little animation. Yes, it's called Coda. That's right. I don't know why I thought of this. Yeah, this is quite a nice, sad, melancholy kind of short story, and this paragraph especially reminded me of it. Um, that sense of someone who's quite, um, or who's wandering a street, a little tipsy, um, ends up getting, I think, hit by a car, and death visits him, and death sort of shows the man every stage of his life, um, in like a sort of flashback style thing. It's quite surreal. Um, yeah, it's nice. And sort of just this gave me a real vibe of it. Um, like a dumb Beatles pull the poop. Are they shiny, are they? Unbeatable. It's not bad, yeah. Shiny. Coarse. Other times a bit hairy. Never look great. Very spherical. Polish your story until it's spherical and round. Which is kind of the same thing. Like a dung beetle's ball of poop. I'm gonna edit this. Let's read a little more. I made it to a club, a blue neon sign at the front reading Pony, and I wondered whether it was a spelling mistake or some adherence to the 21st century. Style of changing words just for the sake of it. Didn't think about it for long enough though. I saw the queue to get in was pretty short, and soon I was walking up the colourfully, with the U, lit stairwell after paying the entry fee of $10. The music was bumping under my feet as I climbed, and after making it to the top and rounding a corner, the whole club was in view. Okay, let's go back here. I left the bar after that, well, after ordering another shot of whiskey, having moved down the length of the bar, so I was away from the crime scene of my utter devastation. Yep. This also, his reflexive, reflective nature of how he's looking at everything. He blames himself as much as he blames the other person, this bitch. So, yeah, he's definitely got some problems. Let's put it that way. The night was young, the sky was silky black, and the sounds of drugged and drunk idiots filled the streets with a sweetness to it that was almost innocent. This is good, really good. There's so many places to go, so many people to see, except all the places to go to were shit, and the people I wanted to see would barely give me an ounce of their time. While the people I didn't want to see me, while the people I didn't want to see hounded me like a starved bitch hungry for meat. It's an odd turn of expression. It's still, I think it fits in with the character's mentality, unless that was the nature of life. So I walked with no real goal in mind. I was healthily distracted from any possible thoughts lurking around in my head by the growing numbness pervading my body and the jolt of energy lighting a wire up my legs. With each step I made, my vision blurring, but finding pockets of visual stimulus in the form of a girl walking down the street or strange faces poking out of the crowd that were interesting to look at. This is an enormous sentence, and you could see, like, there came a point where I just wanted it to end, but it kept going, and I, like, verbally, I just had to, here it ends. I was hopefully distracted from any possible thoughts lurking around in my head. So that's one sentence. So I walked with no real goal in mind. Luckily, LY, well, it's an LY, don't care. Luckily, I you, spelling. Jolt of energy, lighting a wire up my legs. Pockets of visual stimulus is, if you want to be a bit brave, you could say pockets of visual stimulus. Good, that's a nice way to tie it all together, but instead of doing these things, I continue to walk blankly. That contradicts itself. It was a strange feeling wanting to cry and celebrate, but instead of doing these things... No, that works. That's okay. Lots of changes here. I wanted to cut up that 3-line monster sentence and make it clearer for the reader to sympathize. Holy shit, like Jamie on Mythbusters. B-word? What B-word? Oh. Oh, bitch. Yeah. Yeah, auto mod caught that one. Yeah, that's the impression I got, TTLACC. Bitch equals female dog. In which case, its heaviness works in the context of this sentence, especially after he calls this girl a bitch in his head, and then he realizes that he's been a dick in his head, but he keeps that bitterness going. It's fitting, you know. Yeah, I don't want to touch too much on this sort of self-destructive behavior, but it's certainly a pattern, isn't it? Like, happy people don't think like this. Let's put it that way. So happy people wouldn't describe people reaching out to him as hungry bitches. But the fact that this happens, yeah, I'll continue to edit this comment. Here's later on, we keep seeing this bitterness. Like, it's a good way to... There's a broken... Yeah. This is, I think, one of the really strong examples that I've seen on my stream of someone using first person in a way that makes you really uncomfortable with the protagonist of the story, but in doing so helps you to understand what kind of character they're like. Like, for example, if the nice guy thing wasn't intentional and it just kind of leaked out, that would be concerning, but the fact that the author is taking great care to establish who his character is and to show why he's acting in the way that he's acting. It's like what Octavia Memories said before about the Madoka movie. In the first half, we didn't know why stuff was happening. If you don't know why your character is such an asshole, people are just going to think your character's an asshole. But if you show very overtly why your character is so unhappy, we get why they lash out, and we get why they're so bitter. It's a very effective way for us to step in that person's shoes, to sympathize with them and empathize with them, even if they don't deserve it. And this character kind of, it's a funny mixture of, like, do we give in to their self-pity, or do we chastise them, do we criticize them? That's for you as the reader to find out, but the author's done an excellent job here, I think, of dropping those consistent hints about how the character operates. So the more I think about it, the more impressed I am with it. Yeah. Cool. Hello, Camel Case 123. How do we deal with the immense procrastination that comes with writing a book? Good question. I look at procrastination as a sign of my own writing. So, also other people, feel free to answer this question to other writers here. I take it as a sign that what I'm writing isn't working. If I'm procrastinating deeply about something, it means that I'm not enthused to write. And I think that could be in almost all of the cases of procrastination, because what I'm writing, something about it that doesn't work. And as soon as I realize that, I fix it. I say to myself, you know, I'm here, I'm about to write, what's going on? And I go, it's because it's not working. Well, how do I make it work? What do I change? Do I need to move the scene around? Do I need to write something else? I don't mean like jump ship into another story. I mean there's something wrong with my writing and the flow of the narrative that needs to be fixed. But that's just for me, and I've realized that other people procrastinate for different reasons too. I procrastinate because there's something wrong with the story. Other people procrastinate because their attention is split, or they have self-doubt about the quality of their writing. So how do you get over it? You just do. Unfortunately, it's as simple and as complicated as that. You just do. Don't fall into the trap of feeling like you need a crutch, a technological thing. Like, oh, if I had a laptop that didn't have the internet, if I had this piece of equipment that I could type on without having to worry, ignore all that. It comes down to you and your mentality, first and foremost. But I can recommend you try and diagnose why it is you're procrastinating. That's usually quite a good thing to do. Yeah, that's right, TTLC. So you have the double definition of the word bitch. And here it actually has a doubled meaning, so it's clever. Hey, Brady Bread. Hello. Good to see you. Sorry, it took me a little while to get to you. I was answering Camel Case's question. Yeah, 2 streams in a row. This is nice. Let's hope we can make it 3 and 4 and into the future. No pressure there. Justin Toons asks, how do you know when a story is ready or ready enough to be written? My answer? It's pure intuition. Kinda sucks as an answer, doesn't it? It's not what we want to hear. Don't worry about over-planning or under-planning. Back 3 years ago, I wrote a story in a month that came out of my head with a single mental image. It was a pretty frenetic month. That's one of my favorite stories. And, I wrote it with very little planning. Because of that, and ever since that event, I've been allowing myself to divorce my expectation from what is up here versus what comes out through my fingers into the Word document. I'm now content with the fact that my story is what it is, coming out of me rather than what's up here. Very fortunately, I line up the two almost one for one. I have no idea how I've managed to do that. It could probably be like the 13 years that I've been writing, and the many, many, many stories I've done, but it's probably that. It's experience. It's getting comfortable with matching your expectation with the reality, and then it feeds into each other. You start imagining things differently because you imagine not only the story, but you imagine how it's going to be affected by how you write. That feeds into how you write, that feeds into what you think about, which feeds into how you write. It's like a big loop. It all works together really nicely. But unfortunately, the only way you can really get better at it is to just keep writing. And to not worry about what's up here versus what's on the page. Just keep writing. You'll get there. Yeah, I think a sympathetic arsehole is what we're going for with this story here. Hmm. It's interesting what Katrina Hope says. This is also a good perspective from a completely different writer, which is valuable because we're all different, and my opinion on this is certainly not dogmatic. Find what works for you, I guess. That's hard, you know, when you feel like you're never ready enough. Well, let me put it this way. You won't get better at it if you don't do it. And I guess maybe you don't worry that your ideas are not formed enough yet. The more you write and the more you think about it, the quicker and stronger they'll form. But you just trust your intuition too about when you want to start writing. But don't be afraid either. Just grab it and run with it. That's true, Brady Bird. Yeah, good advice. Short stories are like little nuggets of completion. Writing a novel is very daunting. Short stories, on the other hand, complete themselves, and you feel like you've accomplished something when you get to the other end of it. True, Katrina hopes, yeah, definitely. Brady Bird asks, what did I have for lunch today? Do you have a certain food or drink you keep on hand when writing? Tried and true brain food. That's a great question. Tea is what I drink. Tried and true. I just have tea. I get a cup. I put a tea bag in there. I don't take it out, and I sip on it all the way through. I find that if I have something too heavy, I get distracted, or the blood just goes from my head. So I tend to drink when I write. Yeah, that's a good question. How about you? Is there something that you like? Do you snack or do you drink something or? Yeah, it's a good question. Hmm. To answer your first question, I haven't had lunch yet. It's 10:53 a.m. So I've had breakfast. I had a crumpet for breakfast and a coffee, which I was sipping on at the start of the stream. Yeah. Where was I? Sorry, I got very distracted then. My apologies, CryptoSyke. Um, I made it to the club with the blue neon sign out the front, out front reading that read that Eid read. You can get rid of out front. Pony. And I wonder whether it was a spelling mistake or some adherence to the 21st century style of changing words just for the sake of it. I didn't think about it for long though. I saw the queue to get in was pretty short, and soon I was walking up the colourfully lit stairwell after paying the entry fee of $10. Consider Yeah, just add like a little scene about like the bouncer doesn't pay much attention. The music was bumping under my feet as I climbed, and after making it to the top and rounding a corner, the whole club was in view. Okay, good. Let's keep pushing. The bar was packed, uni students trying to buy drinks amongst the crowd, the rest older men and women who looked far too comfortable in this environment. The dance floor was a bombardment of lights, white, green, blue, purple dashes of yellow. It was less crowded than the bar, but no one dancing looked like they knew how to dance, or that they even wanted to. Or maybe that was just my idle mind, my perception out of whack. Though it wasn't far from the truth to say that most people in the world were horrible dancers. Not that I was excluded from that count, of course. I moved instinctively to the dance floor. Anyway, a terrible trap song playing through the speakers. The DJs, up to two of them, up on stage looking like the only one's having a good time. I also do not like trap. Yeah. It took a while for me to get into the groove of things. People were looking at me with small glances and such, and I knew they were judging for being alone just from their eyes alone. I wanted to slink away, leave the club, but the dance floor was getting pretty crowded, and I didn't want to push myself out of everyone's way. Besides, I shouldn't let people dictate what I should or shouldn't do. I should be having fun for once. Yeah. So I moved around a bit, let my body loosen, my muscles relax, and started moving freely. Allowing whiskey to do its work, I went slow at first, not to the beat of a song at all, but faster as I went on, the alcohol liberating my mind and my self-awareness. Any embarrassment I might have had instilled in my soul, I found that slipping away, circling the drain of oblivion. My eyes closed, I was gone. I was away, gone. But then I opened them just for a second, mid-dance, glance around it, and I saw there at the end of the dance floor, Brittany. Classic Brittany. Alright, let's stop there. The bar was packed. You can do this one of two ways. You can replace it with a colon, or get rid of that and put that. The bar was packed with uni students trying to buy drinks amongst the crowd, the rest older men and women. And the rest were older men. Again, colon, definitely here. Not, yeah, we didn't have it here, let's have it here. Tea is a good answer. Russian spice tea, I've never had that before. That sounds nice. I'm gonna look for that. Crackers are also good too. Hmm. 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 Justin Toons, I'm with you on this one. I'm quite visual too. I can't draw. No way. I cannot draw. But I imagine my scenes visually, and then it's just a matter of me translating it. I don't register it as slow though. I've never thought of it. I always think of it as really quick. I don't know. Isn't that funny? Just the expectations of how it's different. In some sense, you're impatient to get it out, but I find myself lost in that moment too, of when things are happening and how you can stretch it out, describe other things. It's sort of like imagine you're watching a movie, but at any point you can pause and take the camera and move it around anywhere. You can go inside a character's head, you can go into their past, you could blow it out to the size of the world, you can do anything like that. That's why I like the visual element of the story. It's not how I think about a story, but it's a little bit like that in a sense. I don't know. I never thought of it as being patient, but yeah, I guess you're right. Music. Yeah, absolutely none. I can't write with music. One of my big inspirations for stories comes through music, so when I'm out and about, I listen to a lot of music, a lot of music. A lot of the same music. And I get ideas from that, and then I translate it into words here. But I can't do it while I'm writing. I know some people love to write with music. I can't do it. Never been able to. Mm-hmm. Have I tried drawing? Yeah, when I was a teenager. I'm really bad. I wish I could draw. You know, it was one of those skills that I wish I was partway competent at. And then I could draw my characters. That'd be cool. I don't know, maybe I should try. I know that you've had some MS Paint adventures, TTLACC, with drawing some of my scenes. Do you draw? Like outside of that sort of stuff, like do you sit down and draw things, or do you have like um a Wacom tablet or something that you use? Hmm. Yeah, this is exactly why I can't listen to music and write. Same thing TTLACC says. It's just it's another world, and you can't. Yeah, I can't translate it. It's like at the same time it'd be too distracting. Hmm. Oh, nice. Well, I'm glad I managed to inspire you to try drawing. Um, you need song requests to help me write. Um, do you mean like playing it over the stream? I don't think I'm allowed to do that with like. I know a lot of Twitch streamers do, but you're not supposed to broadcast music over streams. Um, yeah. I'm sure there's a way to do it though, legally, like using royalty-free music or something. I don't know. Never considered that. Let's dive back into the edit. Um, it's crowded in the bar, but no one dancing looked like they knew how to dance. Ah, yeah, that's right. No, lol. You tried to put a link in, didn't you? You could whisper it to me, and I can pop it in the stream chat, and you guys could listen to it yourself. Um, let's see. Give give a bit more of my forehead. There we go. My forehead. Um, that wasn't far from the truth to say that most film are answers. I like this. Though it wasn't far from the truth to say most people in the world were horrible dancers. Alrighty, Brady Bread's got you covered with some sweet tunes, courtesy of the Twitch chat. Unless it's a Rickroll. It's even better. What is Nintendo Labo? I've seen it. I don't get it though. That is beautiful. That is just anyway, the grocery store, eh? Keep your eyes peeled for some Russian spiced tea. I want Russian spiced tea. I want to know what it's like. Catch you later, Justin Tunes. Thank you for tuning in. And we'll catch you next time. I was so close to saying, catch you later, Lyrebird, because I saw this and I'm like, oh, liar. But wait, hang on, that's me. I can't say goodbye to myself. Whoops. Yeah, this thing, though it wasn't far from the truth to say that most people in the world were horrible dancers. Not that I was excluding, but I can't, of course. That wasn't far from the truth. It's fine, I think we can leave it. I moved instinctively to the dance floor. Let's get rid of this. A terrible trap song played through the speakers. The DJ's up on stage looking like anyone's having a good time. It took a while for me to get in the groove of things. People were looking at me with small glances and such. No, it's not a while. It took a while. That's a grammatical thing. Why is... Anyway. And I knew that they were judging me for being alone just from their eyes alone. I like the repetition of alone here. It's very unusual. I wanted to slink away, leave the club, but the dance floor was getting pretty crowded. I didn't want to push myself out of everyone's way. Besides, I shouldn't let people dictate what I should or shouldn't do. I should be having fun for once. You know what I'm gonna do? Exclamation mark. Make it a declarative statement. So I moved around a bit. Yeah, let my body loosen, my muscles relax, and started moving freely. There's mixed tense here, but I think it works. It's nice. I allowed whiskey to do its work. I went slow at first. Not to the beat of a song at all, but faster as I went on. The alcohol liberating my mind, my self-awareness, and embarrassment I might have been still. All I found was best. Then I opened them just for a second. I'm gonna put comma here. Just one sec, guys. And the back. Herbal tea, eh? Well, enjoy your herbal tea, Justin Toons. Good. I went to get tea, and I thought someone was calling me, but no, just making stuff up. But then I opened them just for a second mid-dance to glance around, and I saw there at the end of the dance floor, Brittany. She was okay, here we go. There was no doubt about it was her. There was no doubt about it. We get rid of what's her. Shoulder-length red hair, cute tight waist. That has to be another comment there. The dress she wore it on her first. Ah, that's right, because he's been broken up with his girlfriend. Ah, of course. That's right. That's why he's such a... is such a dick. It's because he's heartbroken. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Wait, no, sorry, I take that back. He hasn't done anything particularly dickish, just except in his head. Um, yeah, I'm a bit muddled, sorry. My mistake. Um, so that makes sense given his emotional state, which is good. She went on our first date. A red tight dress. We've already got the tight waist and tight dress. Accentuated all the right places. Gonna come back to that. And there she was dancing with another guy. She smiled at him, and the guy faceless except for his teeth. Sorry, just a funny mental image I had there. Sort of like someone who's had their eyes photoshopped out and the nose isn't there. So it's just teeth on a skinless thing. We'll come back to that. The lights started going crazy and they were lost in the crowd. But when they returned to normal and my gaze found her again, hers had as well. She was staring at me, and so naturally I did the one thing any self-respecting guy in that situation would do. I ran. Good. I like that sort of self-referential humor at the end there. Good. Let's deal with some of the grammatical things here. So shoulder length red hair, cute tight waist, the dress she was wearing. She wore it to our first date. A red tight dress that accentuated all the right places. It's okay actually. The repetition of tight works. And there she was dancing with another guy. She smiled at him, and the guy, faceless except for his teeth. I'm gonna suggest a little classic Lyrebird suggestion. She smiled at him, and the guy. The impression that the sentence is giving is that his teeth are his main feature, like he's basically a mouth of teeth. It's a funny way to describe people, but I know what it means, and it's a very strong image. The trouble with faceless except for his teeth is that in my mind, it constructs a very literal image where it's just like imagine like my face right now, but I'm just a mouth. There's nothing above here. It's just skin. It's creepy. It's like something from a horror movie. She smiled at him and the guy. The description you want to go for here is something like good teeth, not much else, or a bank of flashy teeth. I'm not sure what to suggest to make this image work. She smiled at him and the guy smiled back, all teeth. That would work just as well. Same impression, same image, but less baggage. I think that's why I'm suggesting getting rid of this. It's because it has a bit of baggage behind it. It's not just that I don't like it personally. I think that as a piece of as a little mini scene there, it has a bit of extra connotation that you don't want to carry forward. The lights started going crazy and they were lost in the crowd. But when they returned to normal, I suggest here adding a sentence. The lights started going crazy and they were lost in the crowd. Sorry, I didn't read this properly, so my heart's in strobes. When they returned to normal, and my gaze had found her again, hers had as well. But when they returned to normal, the lights, and my gaze found her again, she had found me. Hers had as well. Is a little clumsy. I don't know what I can suggest here to make it less clumsy. I don't know. And my gaze found it's not grammatically incorrect. It's just I think it could be stronger. And my gaze found her again. How about this? Full stop. So had she, or so had her gaze. So in which case, get rid of gaze, and I found her again. So had she doesn't make sense. Sorry, that's not a good suggestion on my part. But when they returned to normal, I found her again. So had she. She was staring at me, and so naturally, I did the one thing any self-respecting guy in that situation would do. I ran. I don't know how to clean this up beyond getting rid of it and restructuring it, so I'm going to leave it as is for now. I was out of the club, the cold air piercing lungs screaming. We need an object here. No, we don't. Let's be a bit experimental, we can do it. I tried to keep my mind from growing too chaotic. From thinking too many thoughts, but everybody knows that's useless to try. For anyone besides old men sitting up in mountaintops meditating. I tried to keep my mind from growing too chaotic. I would suggest doing something else here. I'd suggest here that you personify the chaos inside his head. Like a worm or a monster sort of deal. Give it life, e.g. that kind of thing. It's more visceral. So I'm suggesting this because it's more visceral. It's more of a visceral image. Good reader engagement. And then without... I don't mind the sort of... almost humorous observations thrown in. I think that can soften the otherwise... the risk with this kind of story is that you don't want it to be a bit of like, oh, woe was me kind of story. You want the character to be a bit more grown up and self-reflective. I think there's a decent balance here in this story of that. The more you do this, and the less you do, oh, life sucks, no one's my friend. You can do that, but you need the balance of self-deprecation. What's a good example of that? A subreddit. Yay, I'm a Reddit fanatic. My goodness. But like the Me IRL subreddit's really good for that sort of thin veneer of humor over depression. It's kind of sad actually, but in another way, like people can share memes to connect with each other over their lack of self-worth. I guess that's the point of a subreddit. Yeah, adding reflective humor is quite important, I think, for men especially to deal with their emotional pain. It's easier to laugh than it is to cry. That kind of sucks, doesn't it? But, well, that's society. Me too, thanks. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, good flossing. I need to floss more. Yeah, right. I think that may be in the impression. Yeah. So we could do that two ways, couldn't we? I'll let CryptoSyke jump onto that one and come in with his own conclusion. Just a note to CryptoSyke and to everyone else. But my edits are always suggestions first and foremost. They're not exhaustive, they're not definitive, it's just my impression and where I see elements of a story needing correction or strengthening, but it is, after all, my own opinion. And if at any point you disagree, then that's valid. You know, your response to my response is a valid thing too. I don't have complete control over the flow of the story and where it's going. So if I suggest something and CryptoSyke thinks, no, that's stupid, I'm not going to do that, yeah, totally fine. It's valid. All I'm doing is just suggesting. Yeah. You're so exhaustive to me. Well, I hope I'm not making you exhausted. I wouldn't mind if I could sing you to sleep. I mean, hey, there are worse things, you know. My soothing kind of semi-nasally voice can be a comforting factor in your life. Then that would make me happy, maybe. Maybe, yeah. And then, without knowing what I was doing, or at the very least knowing any sort of intent, I started walking, not bothering to notice the tears in my eyes, or the heaved breaths I was making. I wiped at my eyes when people walked by, but I couldn't do anything to change the way my face looked, so everybody stared as they passed. Some with mournful, that should be reproach. Others with unrestrained amusement. No. Not reapproach. I think it's double P. Reproach. Wiktionary, help me! Oh, it's 1P. Silly lyrebird. There we go. Others with unrestrained amusement. I'm surprised none of them didn't just walk up and laugh right in my face. Well, some of us do. I stopped walking when I made it to an intersection of the streets relatively busy. Ubers and taxis towing drunk citizens looking to get their night on. I thought of stepping out of the comfort of a sidewalk and killing myself, but that was a stupid thought. Of course it was stupid, wasn't it? Then it all came tumbling. Mum, Brittany, the... What happened with Mom? UK spelling should be Mom. What happened with Mum? Did she get cancer? Mom! Get the camera out! No, it's one of those nice, hidden things. I like this, when this happens. Good use of, sort of like little hidden info. We don't need to know... I like this. The utter loneliness that surrounded and made me bleed. Look at all, what was the point of it? If I wake up tomorrow, what's in store for me? Talking to my dad and the rest of the family about the death. Ah, okay, so whoops, it isn't hidden then. Delete! Yes. Sometimes you can just plop it in there, like a single word reference to a problem and never refer to it again. I think that is a valid way to do it. You can just as easily expand it later. Totally fine. Your choice, your call. About the funeral, about coming back to sort things to mourn with everyone else, and then there would be the pity, the needless pity, an insurmountable amount of what of that would doubtlessly be in the near future. Was that all I had to look forward to? Just more suffering? I'm gonna read this paragraph and then we'll go back and to here and work through it. I think part of the reason why I don't read bigger chunks and then go back to them is because this is written in quite a condensed manner, so there are lots of ideas that sort of we can work through and then push forward down. So yeah, so sorry if it feels like I'm just taking a chunk at a time. I think this is the best way to do it, though. I think you can get rid of this, or at the very least, knowing any sort of intent. It's a bit too much of filler. Sometimes it's good just to let your character wash and walk through it. And then without knowing what I was doing, I started walking, not bothering to notice the tears in my eyes or the heaved breaths I was making. I wiped out my eyes when people walked by, but I couldn't do anything to change the way my face looked. So everybody stared as they passed. Some of, yep, this is fine. I think I stopped walking. Okay. Thank you, TTLACC. Mother. What was motherfucker? A mother. Oh, it was the day my mother died. Thank you. I completely missed that. I completely forgot about it too. Well, this really underscores the emotional brokenness of the character. Yeah, it's good. Does it? NA spelling is best spelling. Where's the ban button? Where can I ban you, TTLACC? How can I ban you for saying such nonsense? There we go. Time you out. Yeah. Liberta 114. I've changed the default dictionary on my Word document. Let me see if I can show you how. Hang on. Liber tutorials. All right, we're gonna do the very. I'm sure you know how to do this, but just in case you don't, and you want to kick Word in the teeth every time it tries to do this, you can change the default dictionary on your Microsoft Word. Liber tutorials. Down here at the bottom, you see a language. Right now, it is the correct language. And for whatever reason, Americans decide that they want to default their language to every computer worldwide, so you can't undefault their English US, but you can put the Australia one in there as well, and it will override the American one as it should. So what you do again is you down the bottom here in Word, click there, this guy here, bring up your preferred language, all the way down here, you go to English. There's a Hong Kong flavor of English. I don't know how it's different. And then you press default. You don't press OK, you go default. Do you want it to change the language to default English? And you go yes, I'm going to go no because it's already there. And then it will come up here. You can't get rid of US English. You cannot right click on it. You can't delete it. Japanese is here because I've got my Japanese keyboard. But yeah. Or if you're in the UK, then you can do UK English, up to you. Or if you're Canadian, or if you're Singaporean, yes, you don't have to ever worry about this nonsense again. Liber tutorials. Hey, like and subscribe. That's a really good question. No, it's not. Oh, damn it. No, look at that. Sorry, I didn't even spell it right. Yeah, we use the MO. Because it's mother, and that's correct spelling. We don't have the word mother. Oh, yeah. Isn't that interesting? I never thought of that before. Yay, glad to help out. Now you can spell correctly to your heart's content. What is that word? Yeah, it kind of looks almost German, like how you'd imagine like German English to look. Yeah. Cool. Let's go back to the edit. How much longer do I have to go on the story? I might knock it off today. Yes, I will. I'll go to the end. Just a single stream for this one. So sit tight. We'll be finished a little bit after 12. We are here. I stopped walking when I made it to an intersection. The street's relatively busy with Ubers and taxis. You have to capitalize Uber because it's a brand name. And taxis towing drunk citizens looking to get their night on. I thought of stepping out of the comfort of a sidewalk and killing myself, but that was a stupid thought. Of course it was stupid, wasn't it? Then it all came tumbling. Mum, Brittany, the utter loneliness that surrounded and made me bleed. Look at all, what was the point of it if I wake up tomorrow, what's in store for me? Talking to my dad and the rest of the family about the death, about the funeral, about coming back to sort things and mourn with each other. And then there will be the pity, the needless pity, an insurmountable amount of what would doubtlessly be in the near future. Was that all I had to look forward to, just more suffering? I made a step on the road, looking both ways. Seeing the cars were going relatively slow for now, with traffic congestion slowing things up. But I just had to wait for everything to get to its normal pace again, and then I would run, flat out in front, boom, hit snap dead. And that would be it, hopefully anyway. I guess I would have to make sure the impact actually killed me, otherwise this is all useless. That's probably what kept most people from attempting suicide, the thought they might just cock things up and end up with some physical affliction that makes their life even worse, like being paralyzed or something. I think this is grammatically, this is a fine paragraph. Waiting on the side street in the gutter, looking out two of the streams of traffic, I thought only of the process of running out there and getting hit, and of a distant thought of being paralyzed, but that was distant. And having no thoughts was quite nice, actually. There was nothing else to distract me, nothing at all, just one's imagination and the created scenes of my imminent death. And then I saw it, my big break. A car was speeding down the road, a sleek black sports car, and I knew this was it. I'm gonna replace these with hyphens. The guy or girl steering the wheel was probably out of their mind, and they would realize too late what I was doing. I was so out of my fucking mind as well that I hadn't even noticed that I was stepping out onto the road already. When I became conscious of what I was doing, I put all my effort into it, saying, yeah, this is it, this is right, come on, do it then. Saying out loud, or... I wonder if that should be internal. I was in the middle of a lane, the car was speeding. There was a horn screeching of brakes, but it was too late. Then someone was screaming, watch out! Somebody slammed against me. There was a sickening crunch of metal, glass shattering. I scraped against the asphalt road, cheek blazing red hot. There were screams, there were shouts. Somebody was saying, call the cops. Holy shit, call the ambulance, call somebody, but my mind was too addled to understand any of it. I felt myself moving into a deep, restful sleep, but then something tugged me out. When I opened my eyes, I saw two girls struggling to pull me up, both talking to each other in panicked tones, the words blurring into nothing. There was a crowd of people running onto the road, surrounding the car, and in front of the car, below the bumper, was a man, face first on the ground, not moving. The crowd was growing, some shouting, some trying to calm others down. He just ran in front of the road, and then that guy just jumped out, and that guy saved him. Holy shit. And all their voices were too loud, too scattered. And that same person was still screaming, somebody call somebody, and by this point I hoped his request had finally been taken up. I pushed myself from the two girls carrying me. I didn't deserve their help, no. I deserved horrible pain, sadness, and torture, that's what I deserved. I moved close to the man while everyone else around kept in a thinly held circle, everyone scared to do anything but stare. I might have been the same if it wasn't my life he'd saved. I kneeled down and hoped he was sleeping, just unconscious or whatever, and kept expecting movement, just something, anything, but he remained still, so very still. There was blood pooling around his head, which was shaved down to the scalp, and on his neck was a tattoo of a cross. Knowing I could do nothing like everyone else, I just stared as well, rubbing my face at times, feeling the burn and scratches there. After a while, an ambulance came rolling up, and all the drunken idiots, including me, were herded to the side, relegated to the pathway. I watched as he was put on a stretcher. I watched as he was wheeled up and onto the back of an ambulance. I watched as nobody joined him in there, now knowing Yeah, being alone, all alone, good repetition of the alone from before. And I watched the ambulance speed off, sirens wailing. I just watched, it was the only thing I could do. Interesting. So we've got like a sort of Jesus style figure with the cross. So that's sort of like the Christian metaphor of taking someone's place in an act of grace, or in an act of sort of undeserving like substitution style swap. I don't think, grammatically speaking, there's much I can pinpoint. I mean, there are little bits here and there. I want to talk rather about the construction of this final scene and how it's all, how it sort of comes to a head. What the decision making process is for this character to come to that point, that understanding. Hey, you know, the subscribe button on your channel. No, I don't. I think you have to do you have to be a, what is it? What's it called? An athlete to have a subscribe button. And I just don't want to be an athlete. So I think follow instead. Yeah, that's right. As TTLACC says, like, subscribes, the subscription equivalent is a follow. It means the same thing. Twitch has its own subscription service, but it's more like a Patreon style. You give me money per stream, I think. So yes, smash that follow button, Liberta114. Thank you for the follow. I assume you followed. I don't have any flashy stuff on my screen to tell me anymore. You put two. I put two U's in Uber? Oh, I hope I didn't. I hope I got rid of, No, I deleted that one. Ubers. It looks like it's a bit funny. Let me redo it. Nice, there we go. But yes, hello Andy Modus. Hello. Welcome to the stream. Yeah, it looks like a regular U, doesn't it? You have to kind of squint to see. Unless there's another Uber that I corrected. I think it was only one. TTLACC raises a good point too. Uber. That's per month, yeah. So there are a couple of things at the end here that I think need to be tightened up a little bit in terms of its construction, its delivery, and the consequence of what happens. So I think the progression from stumbling out of the club drunk into the street, up the street, and into the intersection, and then he becomes quite suicidal. It sort of washes over him. I think that's decent. Nothing strictly triggers it, but the whole flow of the story is such that we're so much in his head that it kind of just makes sense for the idea to ideate and come out of nowhere. And because he's too drunk, he doesn't self-correct. Now, because this isn't told in the present tense, and we've got a sober version of this character relaying the events of what happened, we have to be careful that we don't muddy up that sense of drunkenness that tips the scales in the idea of what he intends to do. So I'm going to suggest something, and it's this here. This is the point at which he steps on the road and quite a lot happens. He sort of thinks about doing it, he steps on the road, and then it happens. I would argue that this isn't necessary. I would argue that this scene isn't strictly necessary, or rather, the length of the scene doesn't need to be, not the length, just the scene itself. Filled with this many logical elements. This is kind of odd advice I'm about to give. Kind of an odd statement, I know. But the reason I'm saying it is because your narrator is... This is CryptoSyke. Your narrator is a sober version of MC recounting his drunk self and the decisions he has made accordingly. We probably should have a more drunk version of this entire decision-making process. Odd advice, right? Usually you would kind of want to swap it around. But in this instance here, because the main character is drunk, he's depressed, he's suicidal, decisions don't need to make lean sense. We can quite easily and effectively just blur it together into a couple of sentences. What happens in these paragraphs is... So, let's break it down. Paragraph 1, the ideation. I-D-E-A-T-I-O-N. 2 is the consequence, selfish consequence. Paragraph 3, car comes. Each one of these can be a sentence instead of a paragraph. The advantage of doing it this way is this. Your flow becomes thus. MC arrives at intersection, light, suicidal idea, tipping point, mum's funeral, quick decision. Having it quick, the quickness of the action will make the whole scene a bit more unbelievable. Suicide's not a rational thing. Certainly in this context, suicide isn't really a rational decision in these sorts of contexts. So match the writing style with the narrative. Flow. That's probably the strongest suggestion I'd make to all of this, and it's why I don't want to go through line by line too much and do more of an edit around what was going on. Alrighty, Brady Beard. Don't you forget about me. 80s synth chord. But yeah, come back next time. We'll catch you later. I do not like the 80s. At all. Don't like 80s culture, don't like 80s movies, don't like 80s nostalgia, don't like it. 80s music, nah. 80s video games, nah. I don't know, I didn't grow up with it, and it's cheesy. I don't know. I'm not gonna sit here and rant about the 80s. I can, but I don't want to. I think it's not what we're here for. This isn't Lyrebird talking about the 80s. This is Lyrebird talking about writing. Don't you? Good song though. After having just said I don't like 80s music. This is Lyrebird hypocrisy. That's what I'm doing. Don't you forget about this section here. DLACC suggestion of like what are the consequences of this directly? What should be the direct consequences of this? DLCC says no one was mad to yell at the suicidal person that was saved. I think it's a good observation. Viewer suggestion from DLCC. I'm gonna copy paste that from the chat. No one was mad to yell at the suicidal person. I agree. The scene feels a bit light on direct consequence for MC. It doesn't have a name. Have someone at least come in and shout. Nath. Nate. Yeah, something. Anything. I think the capitalization's okay. I don't like capitalization in dialogue, but yeah, good use of bleed through hyphens here. That's really nice to see. Mwah, good grammar. And just keeping okay, here's an interesting thing about starting sentences with pronouns, which is not something I'm usually a fan of. You can, however, use it to good effect. You see, I moved, I might, I kneeled. Sometimes after some quite flowy, wordy narrative, it's refreshing to have pronoun, pronoun, pronoun. It condenses the writing down into more of a sort of basic, raw kind of feel. I think it fits here, so I think that's nice. Exactly the same thing here. Look, I watched. The good repetition. Excellent, sort of polished off here. I just watched anything I could do. Good, nice, excellent. As for this last scene here, I'm gonna highlight this sentence here. I'm gonna highlight this sentence here to talk about something. Just talk about the point that follows on from the previous one about matching the drunk state with the words. I like how towards the end, the writing becomes BCOMES, raw, and a little more basic. This is a good way to convey a sense of desperation. Now, if I can spell desperation, that would be lovely. It's a way to convey a sense of desperation and immediacy. To not make it flowy, but to make it sort of just effective. It's effective. Not showy. Good. Good stuff. Have a think then about keeping this consistent. Sentences like the one I highlighted feel a tad out of place. You can, if you like, just cut them out. Strip back the detail. Don't try and pack too much into the paragraphs. I think it's a little long. So trimming these final few paragraphs back would help that. Good. I think that's kind of all I have to say about it. It's pretty bleak. I don't know where it's going to go from here, if anywhere at all. It's a bit sort of depressing. So I remember my tutor told me if you capitalize the dialogue, they will think the character is screaming. That's my impression. Is it correct to capitalize words, or do lowercase exclamation point, he, she shouted? So 2 points from, one from TTLACC, one from Liberta. It's up to you as an author to determine how shouty you want to be. This is like absolute top of your lungs screaming, I think. And depressing stories are a great read. I agree. I like sad stories and depressing stories and stories that have a bit of despair in them. I don't know why. I'm a happy person. I just like reading sad things. Yeah, so is this right? Yeah, I think it's right. Use it sparingly though. Be really mindful that you have to use this quite sparingly. No no extra punctuation there. Ditto with that. Don't do it too much. I think this is just the right amount. Yeah. So just to sort of summarize CryptoSyke, what I'm talking about in this last section here, from this point on, you can do well to strip it back. Right now it is, I'm gonna guess 600 words? Oh, 729. Make it 500. Just off the top of my head, that number. Go through yourself and read it again, but keep your finger on the pulse of everything. As I've suggested here, the quickness of this final scene will make it more immediate and important. You don't need to dwell on the details too much, but you just need to cut back some of the weight behind it, make it a bit more chaotic and clumsy. That would help it in a weird sort of way. I hope I've made myself clear about the intention that I'd like to see at the end of this, just to sort of, I think, tighten it up and make it really effective. It's a good base right now. You just need to sort of work with that to really heighten the emotional sense of what it is that we're talking about. Other comment? The main character certainly has a lot on his plate in terms of his emotional state. His mum's died, his girlfriend's broken up with him, he's drunk, he feels nihilistic, and he doesn't strictly lash out at other people. It wasn't right of me to call him a dick, because that implies that he's actually hurt other people. And he may have outside of a story, but he's he's very damaged, and we can see that in how he treats the girl who rejected him, and the kind of language he uses to describe his predicaments and his friends. He mistakes their concern for false concern, which is like a typical, very typical thing to do when you're in the throes of despair. So, like in terms of character construction, I think this is really well done. It's made a main character that's um, flawed enough to make the suicide intention combined with the drunkenness just believable enough. I think it's remember that suicide in this context is not a rational thing to do. You have to weigh up all the factors that went into his decision here. It's not like, it makes sense for me to do this, it's I'm drunk and in my drunk mind it makes sense. That's the impression that you have to convey. Combined with his despair, his grief, his character, that works together quite well, I think. It doesn't feel like it's a tawdry kind of throwaway suicide. It feels like it has a weight behind it that's justified with the bulk of the story. I don't think suicide is a very easy thing to write about convincingly. I think this is like 80% there in terms of making it a believable thing. The thing I just stress is that within this context, it's not a rational decision. So the rationality and the logic behind this needs to be cut back and replaced with more of like a drunken stupor kind of logic. That's what I'd suggest too. Good points about this story. There are many. It flows in a really nice way. All the sentences in the paragraph contribute to a total idea of what the paragraph is trying to get across. Whether it's in this paragraph here, where something happens, he responds to it. His phone rings, but his friends are, he pushes them aside. He pushes their concern aside. The sentences don't feel like they clunk or compete against each other. They all work together in concert. It's really nice to see. The flow is good. The word choices are good. The humor occasionally is nice. It's sparing, which is good. It's not too humorous. The characterization is suitable for the story. Just be careful with the use of conjunctions, starting your sentences. Just see whether or not that happens a little too much. But with another coat of polish, like going through this story, just thinking about how the narrative elements work, yeah, I think this would be quite good. I encourage people out there to write in a similar fashion to this. Try one story where you're writing in the first person and the main drive of a story like this isn't so much what happens. What happens in the story? Guy gets drunk, goes to a dance floor, sees his girlfriend, and steps out in front of a car in a drunk, stupid state. That's the four this happens things. But the bulk of his story isn't about that. What it's about is his sense of desperation. He's dealing with his emotional problems in a way that's not very healthy. That's the story here. So if you've never written a story like this, I really recommend you do. Partly because it'll give you an opportunity to write like this, which is something that I can definitely recommend that you try and see whether it works for your writing style. CryptoSyke's done an excellent job of constructing paragraphs with grand ideas flowing from little ideas. He's done an excellent job in... I assume CryptoSyke is a man. I don't know why. CryptoSyke has done an excellent job in making sentences flow and gel together in a really nice way. At least that's just my impression of it. Very rarely did I have to step in and be like, no, this sentence doesn't fit, or... it was smooth. Very smooth. So yeah, congrats to CryptoSyke. I think this is a very well constructed story. That's interesting. the birder. But you say that it's difficult. Do I have any tips? Probably just read a few stories in first person, and you'll find a pulse of it. You'll find how authors choose to use it, why they choose to use first person. Perhaps the biggest issue is finding the voice of the character and making it convincing in the story world. I find that difficult with first person, but not impossible. You get used to it the more you do it, that's for sure. Give it a try. And the more you practice it, the more you'll come to appreciate how to do it, I guess. Good question, GTLACC. I thought a similar thing as we got to the end of a story. I wondered if he was talking from like an afterlife situation. Possible. You can have a character that talks about their death, and then the narrator exists in this unreal kind of limbo place where they're talking about the events of the story. That's fine too. So I think the answer to your question is yes. Give your reader a bit of a bone though. Make them understand why the character is talking to them if they're in a limbo or in a situation like that. I think it's possible. Yeah. Should you do it? Up to you. Cool. I think we're done. I'll send this CryptoSyke. And then yeah. I'm going to be editing Solar Star-Lord's story next stream on Thursday, and I can have a look at Octavia Memories' story too, if she sends it over. If you would like to have anything edited over the stream, send it through to me. You can either join my Discord, the link is on my Twitch dashboard, like my homepage, or you can send it to me via email. Again, the email's on the dashboard. Yeah, please send through anything you'd like to have me take a look at. Alrighty, we're going to call that a stream. Thank you. Thanks for everyone who came and followed. Thank you for new faces, old faces. I hope this was fun and we all learned a lot. I think this was a good story to work through. I enjoyed it. Alrighty, well, we'll catch you Thursday then. Thursday. And if you get lonely, just say hi in Discord. Yeah, no worries about it. Yeah, my pleasure, Katrina Hopes. I think he may. I hope you mean can't wait. Unless don't wait. But yeah, I like the sentiment. Alright. We'll catch you later, guys.